Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. This is the place to learn about careers from the people who are actually doing the work every day. I'm your host, Brian Bratt, and this week's guest is 2013 Van Buren graduate Heather Ritson, a Behavior Services Coordinator 2 at the Medical University of South Carolina. In this episode, Heather shares how a typical day looks for her, how the path to her career started with a social work degree, how she canceled plans to earn a master's degree in social work and an MBA and is glad she did, the importance of learning from mentors, and much more. Whether you are interested in a career as a social worker or are still exploring your options, I hope that what Heather shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Heather, thank you very much for joining us today to share your career story. And I'd like to start like I do with everyone else. How does a typical day look for you as a behavior services coordinator at the Medical University of South Carolina?
So thanks again for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk a little bit about my career with you and share that with alumni and students. So a typical day for me looks a little bit different than everybody else in my department. My position is specifically, it's half counseling and also half kind of like business development type stuff. So helping the department work a little bit better. Currently, I'm working on revamping their website, those kinds of things. So half of my day, I'm meeting with clients, helping them with different problems with both university and hospital staff, but also external contracted employees that we work with as well too for various problems. It could be that they lost a close loved one. It could be stress of work. Maybe they're having internal conflicts about, is this really what I want to do with my career? Maybe they want to work on some leadership or professional development. So every day kind of looks a little bit different for me. There is no, every day is the same for me in my position.
So when I saw behavior services, as a teacher, I'm thinking, oh, behavior, discipline, things like that. This is far from that. You are helping people deal with issues. You said half counseling, half business development. You then mentioned the department. Mm-hmm. What is the department?
So we're a really small department. So the big overall arching department that I work in is for the Institute of Psychiatry and Behavior Sciences. And we're like a micro department within that through the Employee Assistance Program. Okay. So that is the micro department that I work in, is the Employee Assistance Program.
So you are not necessarily working with students at the school. You are working more with employees, things like that. And like you said, at the university, at the hospital. What else can you tell us about the Medical University of South Carolina? How big is it? Where's it located?
So a little step back. So we do see some residents and fellows because they're kind of like employees, but also students. Okay. So we do see some of those as well. The Medical University of South Carolina is the largest and top medical institution within South Carolina. So it's very large. I work at the Charleston office. Charleston, South Carolina office downtown, but they also have tons of other locations throughout South Carolina. So there's little smaller hospitals in like Florence and Columbia, and they're all throughout and they're continuing to grow. So it's a very large system that we work with.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about Charleston and having all the satellites. And yeah, Charleston, wow, what a beautiful city to be living in. And like you said, sunshine and nice weather. You have it all down there. So that's a good thing. So obviously you're in a good place right now in your career. When you were a student at Van Buren, what were your plans as you were preparing to graduate? Did you think you were going to end up being a counselor, someone in business development? or did you have other plans at that time?
So at the time, I wasn't sure what I wanted, like early high school career. Um, I knew I wanted to work with people and help people because I was passionate about that. Van Buren kind of helped me with that. They offer different business classes that I could take as kind of like I can't remember.
Electives?
Electives, yes, thank you. There was a psychology class that really kind of jump started that a little bit. But it was also kind of some of the extra stuff that wasn't necessarily classroom based. For example, a lot of my study halls, I went and helped out in the special education classrooms. Would help them with activities, would help them in gym class. And that was like a really special kind of thing for me that was able to really, that's really where I found that passion for helping others and kind of giving back in those kinds of ways. So those between the in classroom stuff and the out of classroom stuff, I knew that I wanted to work with people in kind of like a counseling mentorship kind of space. So with that, I went to college for social work, and that kind of fueled that passion a lot. If you would have asked me in high school if I was going to see myself in a half counseling, half business kind of role in the next 10 years, I would have been like, no, absolutely not. The business side of things kind of occurred. I took time between my bachelor's degree and my master's degree to kind of figure out what it is that I wanted to do long term. So I took time to sit down and focus on what my personal mission, vision, and values were and where I wanted to be in the future, and did research and talk to mentors and kind of figure out what that looked like for myself. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am now.
I think that's interesting. Personal mission, vision, and values. And I think that's something that myself, I mean, I don't know. I think I have those things in the back of my mind, but like you said, you brought those to the front of everything. And that's what has guided you down these paths. And I think that's something that would be very, very beneficial to students. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you went to the University of Findlay, earned your bachelor's degree, and like you said, took a couple of years and worked out in the field in social work and so forth, and then went back to school, went to BG for your master's degree in organizational development. What was it that made you go back to school and maybe not just stay in the social work realm for the next 30 years after graduating with your bachelor's degree? And what led to that change?
So it's funny because I knew during my bachelor's program that I wanted to continue my education. I love learning, I love education. So I knew I wanted to continue my education at that point. I just didn't know exactly what it was I wanted to do. Actually, before I started I'm laughing at myself because I was actually set to go back for my master's in social work.
Oh,
And like a week before those classes started, I dropped out. I was supposed to go back to University of Michigan, which is like the top social work program in the nation. And I was like, hold on, I don't know if this is what I want to do. It was kind of like an anxiety attack almost, because I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Like, I love working with people and helping people, but really more passionate about fixing, I won't say fixing, but improving the processes within organizations that worked with those people. Because I like working with the people, but through my experiences of working in the field, there was more that could be done that would ultimately help improve the lives of clients. And I felt that that was through the actual organizations themselves. So it's actually, I was going to go back through and get my MBA, but then 3 days before classes, when I was like, oh, what do I want to do with an MBA and what kinds of fields can I go into afterwards? I found organization development, and that really works with the people and the processes of an organization. And I thought it was like a perfect match with my background in social work because it works with people and looks at organization behaviors and those kinds of things. So that's how I fell upon it.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. Again, it's okay to stop and start. It's okay to change direction. It's okay to just stop and wait to see what happens. There's all of those options. And I think oftentimes people get so caught up in, I have to move, move, move. And once I'm started in a direction, I have to keep going in that direction. And I think you're a great example of that not being true. And you've still, because of those stops and starts and changes, you are now in a place that you are really enjoying. And you found that job where you can mix those two pieces that make it very enjoyable and purposeful for you. So that is awesome to see. You've also spent some time as a photographer. You've owned your own consulting firm. What have you learned from those experiences? Are you still doing any of those things with the new position down in South Carolina? How does that look?
So the photography I've kind of put off. It's more of like a hobby for myself. And that's mostly because I don't have the time to do it anymore.
Right.
Because I am working a full-time job. Plus I'm doing the coaching and consulting business on the side as well too. So like working one-on-one with business people and, people that are working through personal and professional development stuff and helping them excel in their personal lives and in their careers as well.
Right. With the photography, was that ever a huge part of your job or career, or has that always been more of just a little bit on the side?
It's always been a little bit more on the side. I was a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. So raising my small children. So that was more of like I really love doing this, but also a little extra income on the side as well too.
Right.
So that's kind of where that was. It was something I was passionate about and I loved, but it really has helped me in my current career. Because the creativity that it allowed me to have at that time has continued into my current position. So right now I'm working on building the website and I make flyers and, do trainings and make things visually pleasing for people that are attending workshops and are looking at the website and stuff. So that those skills have helped me have kind of put me ahead a little bit
Right.
in that regard with the creativity space, because a lot of people in business and clinical settings don't usually have that outlet. So it kind of has helped me kind of be above a little bit and stand out when I was applying for my positions.
And I think that reinforces that idea of no experience is ever wasted.
Oh,
And
absolutely
again,
not.
you never know where something like that is going to be useful to you down the road. And yeah, that's something I always want students to remember. Just
Yeah.
go get experience. And if you do that, that's what ultimately matters.
Yeah. Skills are so transferable,
Right.
especially in today's world. You just got to know how to word it on a resume.
Right. 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 Now, let's say there's a high school student who hears what you're talking about and says, wow, that sounds amazing. I love this idea of maybe doing some counseling, doing the business development, organizational development. Obviously, you've taken a path to get here. Is your path what you would suggest for someone else who already knows that they want to end up where you are? Is there a straighter path to where you are, or is it going to be a little bit curvy and wavy along the way?
So, we're all in this journey of life, but we're all on our own paths. So if someone hears my story and they're like, wow, like that's 100% what I want to do, I'm passionate about doing it, I 100% encourage people to talk to mentors, talk to people that are in fields that they are also interested in. I don't think my path, could it be somebody else's path? Absolutely. But I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that, because my path was totally by, I want to say like by accident. Like I just happened to just, take the time to look at what I wanted to do and achieve. And so could it be somebody else's? Possibly, but at one point in time, I was going to I was going to go for a psychology degree, my bachelor's degree. So, there's different ways to get to where I am. And, everybody's starting differently, and they might start off differently, or they might start off in business, but maybe you're wanting to do more counseling. So I think there's different avenues that you could get there. But just talking to mentors and being guided through those processes, I think is more important than the process itself,
Right.
if that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, and your social work degree obviously has contributed. I mean, if you had gone and gotten a psychology degree, could you have still ended up where you are today?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's a slight possibility, but I not so much. I think my social work degree really has helped me connect with people on a different level than a lot of other um like backgrounds, I guess
Okay.
you could say. Like if I had a business background and went through my organization development program, I would have connected with people on a different level than versus counseling. Like counseling, you're trained to connect and understand people on a different level than somebody with, say, a business background.
Okay. So really, it's the social work degree that has really set you up, and then you could add on these other pieces.
Mhm.
So, again, I think a lot of times we think social work, it is, I don't know, it's so many different things, but I don't know that a lot of people think about it as maybe doing some counseling, things like that. But it does allow that, and then you've been able to add on the business development. So that's awesome. And again, that's like you said, people need to explore their own path, and starting with people in the field like you, or anyone who they see that they say, wow, I really am interested in that. Talk to those people, get that guidance.
Yeah. With social work, what drew me to social work was that there's so many different ways you can go with it. A lot of people, like when you first tell them that you're a social worker, they think you're going to take their kids. And it's
Yeah.
not at all. Yes, that is one career path with that, even though they don't just take kids.
Right.
But
Right.
um, there's so many different avenues you can go with it. There's counseling, there's case management, there's so many different ways that you can go with it. And that's what really drew me to it, is because it can be as broad as you want or as narrow as you want. And I like the flexibility of that.
You mentioned earlier that in high school you had known that you wanted to work with people, help people. What are some other characteristics of people who might do really well in your position?
I think um, people who are one observant, but also empathetic. There requires a deep level of empathy and compassion for people and others in this career, especially when you're sitting in a space listening to somebody else who is going through a traumatic experience, or who is sad and depressed. They're showing up to an appointment in their pajamas and they're crying in a session. That not everybody can handle that.
Right.
So that requires a deep level of empathy and understanding for others, that not necessarily a lot of people can do.
Right. And I think you talked about, helping in some of the classrooms here at Van Buren. And, I think putting yourself in those situations like that helped you recognize that you could handle maybe some difficult situations. And that also then hopefully gave you that confidence as you moved into this career field.
Mhm.
As you think about different schools, obviously Northwest Ohio, we have Findlay and BG, and you attended both of those. You talked about Michigan. Are there any other schools that maybe would be great ones for people to attend? Or is it, again, one of those things where when I go to the doctor, I don't ask my doctor where he or she went to school? I just know that person had the training. Most schools probably have some type of social work degree. I don't know. How much does where the degree comes from, how much does that matter in the end?
So with social work specifically, you want to make sure it's an accredited program. And I think that that's the key. A lot of employers, or like for me, I had to get a license in social work afterwards. I had to take a test. I have to get so many continuing education hours after that. So just making sure that the program is accredited, because if it wasn't accredited, I wouldn't have been able to get my license. But there is so much pressure with going to like the top of the top school, and there's like this competition level that I remember having in high school about, ooh, I got into this program, or I got into this school. And reflecting back on it, employers really don't care. Like they don't, like even like, when I got my master's degree, my employer didn't ask where I got it. They just cared that I got it.
Right.
So I think it, depending on where you're going, I think it's important to make sure that it's a place that matches with your own personal mission, vision, values, that we kind of talked about a little bit, but also is aligned with where you want to be. But I don't think that the school necessarily is as important as making sure that you'll be able to do something with it afterwards. So like the accreditation, if you're becoming a surgeon, making sure they have the program that you actually want to do, not necessarily focus on the school name itself, but the programs and the accreditations that they have, I think are more important.
Right.
When you're looking.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice. So as we wrap up and you think about everything you've learned in your time after high school, what do you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were a high school senior?
That it's not a race. I think there's so much pressure to, jump start into school, and, you have to have your career choices right here, right now, as soon as you walk across that stage with that diploma. And while, yes, most employers require you to have a bachelor's degree, and that is important to have some kind of degree, depending on where you want to do after school, high school, I think it's important to experience as many things as you can experience, and figuring out what your passions and your joys are in a career, and take the electives both in high school and in college. It's better to waste 3 credit hours than to waste 4 years. So just taking, different classes that you might be interested in. You might take, a business class, even though you're in social work, and be like, oh, I really like marketing, for example. Or maybe you're in marketing and you take a psychology class and you're like, oh, I really like this. Or, just try the different classes, or maybe it's a social justice class, and just take ones that you might be interested in, because a lot of times transfer over to your degree anyways. So you might as well get the most out of your time. And like I said, it's a lot easier to waste 3 electives, even though you need so many electives anyways to graduate, than to waste 4 years. So just take all the classes that you can and try to get as much experience.
Yeah, I feel like I should put that on my wall. It's better to waste 3 hours than 4 years. Because those 3 hours could help you figure out this is where you want to go. And like you said, it might produce a lifelong hobby. It might produce, any number of things. So Heather, I really appreciate you sharing all of this. Sounds like you're doing very well. And again, we're a little jealous of the weather down in South Carolina and Northwest Ohio right now. So good luck as you continue on your career journey. I hope that some people reach out to you and maybe ask some questions if they're interested in a social work / business development degree and all of the cool things that could come out of that. So thank you very much, and good luck as you continue on your journey.
Yeah.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, Please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.